Welcome to another exciting instalment of the Powerhouse. Coming up this week, we've got 5 favourites, 2 cars and 1 splendid engine.
This week we're going to kick off with 4 cars that I always fancied owning. This is a Renault 5 GT Turbo. For some reason I never actually went and bought one, which makes me a bit stupid if you ask me. They started off as a publicity stunt. They were doing so well in F1 that they decided to shove a turbo engine in their little tiny motor. And believe me, these things are more fun than naked baby oil twister. It's lowered all round with GT tuning equipment. It's also held together by a nice little strut brace. As you can see, there's all sorts of little details, twin dump valves. This here will actually turn up or turn down the amount of boost that you're running as well. It's a great engine running 240 brake horsepower. When you turn it up, you can get as much as 260. With a bit more fettling, you could probably go even higher. Move down the car, we've got Oz exclusive wheels on it. We've got a Sony head unit inside. Don't even try and take this car. It's covered by an immense security system that you're not going to get round. Stopping power is held by cross-drilled 285mm brake discs and a nice little install in the back as well, which is all homemade. This car is just brilliant. The amount of little tiny details I could go through with you, it'd take me all day. Got a 4-inch pipe there running down to the engine with a 2¼ inch pipe. I could go on, but the man's here. Simon, nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
How you doing? Right, Simon, I've got to ask, why did you buy a Renault 5 Turbo to begin with?
Why not?
Why not, indeed?
Love them to pieces.
Is it finished?
Apart from a few little touches, you know, bigger set of wheels maybe, a bit more bodywork.
Right.
Yeah.
How did you start?
Oh, about 2 years ago. Got a bit of money, looked through the catalogues, you know, through the magazines.
Right. What was the first modification that you did to the
Hybrid
car?
turbo.
Hybrid turbo?
Yeah.
And then it all went on from there?
Yeah, head, intercooler, exhaust system, a lot.
Do you get a lot of questions asked about the car when you park up somewhere?
Yeah, if you go to Tesco's or something like that, you know, or go get kids up from school.
Yeah,
you know.
6 feet deep around the car, yeah?
Yeah, you know, you can't get near them. All you're worried about is are they going to scratch you or anything. You know, keep away, keep away.
Yeah,
you know?
has anyone ever done anything to it like
No, not as yet. Yeah.
That's quite lucky.
You know, if I get hold of them, if they do.
Yeah.
How much of the work did you actually do yourself?
All of it.
Every single last bit?
Apart from resprays, everything's done.
Amazing. So how much money do you think you've actually spent on it?
Oh, 12 grand, 15 grand.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, let's ask a hypothetical question. You win 20 grand on the lottery. What do you do?
Spend a bit more money on this, then try and save the rest.
No new project?
Not as yet, no. If it was more than 20 grand, then maybe there would be a new project, but...
What would your dream car be if you could...
Oh...
Another one of these?
Yeah, another one of these, you know, add to the collection. Something a bit more, you know, upmarket maybe.
Simon, thanks very much for bringing the car. Thanks very much.
Thanks a lot, Simon. Now, Simon's car's pretty cool, there's no doubt about that, but check out Carl's car here. Very nice. If we look at the front down here, brass kind of gold effect grille there, gets the air in nicely. And this in the bumper here, bit different, gold again, which is unusual on this car, as you'll see in a minute. DTM style splitter there with the minimalist bars here, which I think looks fantastic. Right, if we move along here, an engine bay that speaks for itself really. Same again, we see nice struts there. We got the dump valves, but the most thing in here is the attention to detail. I mean, look at the cleanliness of it generally. It's just polished up immaculately, like nothing I've ever seen really before. Really is a credit to the guy. Move along, M3 style mirrors. And then we come to the interior, which he's done a bit of work on as well, to be fair. He's got a really nice gear stick shifter there, which is sort of shortened. As we all know, the Renault 5 ones tend to be quite long. And the handbrake is sort of modified to fit this car from a Golf, believe it or not, which people said you couldn't do, but obviously you can. He's also got like the carbon fibre effect trim on the dash there and the boost control, which comes in very handy, I would have thought. These wheels are 16-inch and they're imported from Japan, and I'm told that they're the only ones on a car in this country at the moment, which again is quite novel indeed. Then we come to the back here. Something to keep the neighbours awake, I think. Well, they can pinch it if they want to because he doesn't seem to have it bolted down. But he has got this bolted down. This is full of Tom Jones and Shirley Bassey in here, I'm told, because the guy's from Wales. But no one's going to be stealing this anyway. There's something like 13mm bolts on that. But anyway, if that doesn't keep the neighbours up, This certainly will, because that's a huge exhaust, as you can see. And the guy's got such a massive turbo on this car that it's going to make a shed load of noise anyway. So let's go and meet the guy. Carl, how you doing?
How are you doing?
Nice to see you.
Yep.
Are you obsessed with chrome?
Well, I think so. It's got to the stage now whereas, okay, I can get performance out of the way. It's chroming and engine appearance is all that I prefer at the moment.
Because every little bit on that seems to have been done. I mean, man hours involved in that must have been...
Yes, oh yes, it's all time, energy, bit of money.
Blimey.
But obviously I'm looking for the show car type.
That's it. What about the performance of the car there?
Well, performance was my main starting point. Obviously I've got to the stage where I can't do any more to it, not without, I don't know what I could do to it. But I said to myself, okay, enough's enough, let's make it look the business. And obviously it goes, like the clappers, so, it's all in one.
Yeah, well, can you throw the kids in it and nip down the old supermarket?
Not really, because they'll just be coming back scared. Yes, you can. I use it every day for work.
Right.
It's got about 114,000 miles on the clock on the same engine. And with the amount of boost, which I am running, say at Santa Pod, you can run 30 psi at the engine inlet and produce roughly about 260 brake horsepower. No problem whatsoever.
So what sort of brake horsepower do you actually use for the road?
You can turn boost down to about 26 psi, and quite happily you can run that all day, no problem. And at Santa Pod, I've done a 13.6 quarter mile at 106 mile an hour.
That's
Well,
outstanding.
that's honourable to begin with.
That's absolutely outstanding, that is.
What I do want to know, though, is do you actually chrome your Shirley Bassey and Tom Jones CDs?
Oh, Tom Jones, yeah. He's fantastic.
Excellent.
He's fantastic.
Carl, what a fine example. Thanks a lot for bringing it down today.
Pleasure.
Cal, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Now, we've seen 2 already. We've got a couple more to show you. Let me just show you this little black one over here that's owned by Richard. The engine spec is roughly the same as the other 2 that we've already seen. This one's got a bit of a special turbocharger. It's high tech. It spins up quicker at lower revs and take you all the way through. The throttle response is absolutely amazing on this car. There's also some little detail on the front as well, some little DTM splitters down there that are actually adjustable so you can set how far you want them to stick out. So move along the car. Just in the interior just there's some carbon fibre that we'll talk about later. We've got a nice splitter on the rear wing here as well. And just down next to the wheels, we've got some little gulls there, whatever you want to call them, which are a nice little package that you can pick up, 6 in a pack. You get them sprayed, you shove them on. We've also got this in the back as well, which is a nice little install, which I think I've just broken over there, but we'll pass on that. This is a lovely little car, and it runs extremely well. Let's go and meet the owner. Come with me. Richard's over here, sat with Dave, and we'll have a chat with him. Richard, nice to see you. Thanks for coming.
How are you doing, all right?
Yeah. Richard, how long have you owned the car?
About 2 years now.
When did you start modifying it?
About a year and a half ago when I met Carl, came up, knocked the door, we had a chat, we got on really well, and it sort of went from there. He'd done a lot to his car when I met him, and it just escalated from there. Started off with an air filter, now it's 240 odd brake horse, so work that out.
Was this the first car that you've modified, gone to town on, as you might say?
Well, I had a Nova before, which I sort of modified, but nothing much.
Not to that extent.
No
yeah.
way, no.
It's absolutely gorgeous, that really is.
Try my best, it's a lot of time and effort and money, but if you want it, you got to go and get it, and you only live once. So
Yeah, that's right. That's right. How much do you reckon you've actually spent on that one then?
easily got to be well over 12 grand, because I've just rebuilt the engine as well now. So
what drives you to try and get that much power out of something so small?
there's a lot of competition in there with the Renault, so it's one against the other. So I thought, right, well, I'll go and have my bit. So I've done the low inertia turbo and sort of gone that way. I'm happy with what I got. So
There's a lot of carbon fibre detailing in there. Did you do it
Yeah.
yourself?
Oh yeah, I did that before it was featured in the magazine. It took a lot of time, but was it worth it?
And it's really picky as well, isn't it?
Well, it's hairdryer, Stanley knife, touch it on, make sure there's no bubbles. Pain in the bum.
No, I had a go at that myself, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't do it again.
No.
Richard,
Same.
thanks very much for showing
Thanks
us
a
your
lot.
car.
No
Thank
problem.
Thanks a lot, Rich.
Cheers. Thanks.
Well, we've been joined here on our sofa in our lounge area by our two next guests. That's Roland and Clive here. Guys, thanks a lot for coming down.
Hello.
Now, you've both got two of the same machines there, but they're pretty radically different. We'll start with you, Roland. Yours looks brilliant, but how does it perform?
Performs very well. It's currently produced a 12.64 second quarter mile down the drag strip.
That's incredible.
Yeah, terminal speed was 112.96, which is currently the record. That's the time to beat. And it's done it with very good reliability and very good drivability, so we're very pleased, yeah.
That's excellent. What about you, Clive? Have you managed to perform to that kind of standard?
Well, we're getting there. Last September, October, we ran it at Santa Pod. We did a 13.3 quarter mile, a terminal speed of 107. But since then, we've done some work over the winter and managed to find another 84 brake horsepower. So we'll be out there again this year, in the near future.
So what brake horsepower is it running on now?
Well, we had it recently on the rolling road again. We had 290 brake out of it. That was at 19-20 pound a boost. But we're holding it at that to see how we go, because it is a bit of a test bed. It's a different approach, so.
Yeah. Well, what about your car, Roland? What have you got?
Car's producing over 300 brake horsepower, very reliably. We haven't actually pulled the engine apart for the last 3 years, up until just before this show, just to tidy it up a little bit.
It's kind of it.
Very good. We were very pleased with it. There was no problems inside the engine at all. It was all very clean, so we literally just put everything back together as it was. 1 or 2 new products that we've added to it, but yeah, overall basically the same.
Well, like we said, I mean, you are actually the governor, and the 3 cars that we saw before were from your stable, effectively. So, I mean, do you do full conversions for people?
Yes, we do. I mean, we can supply all the parts DIY, or we can fit them all. As you probably know, most of the products we actually manufacture. So, you know, we go through quite a crucial design process and testing process before we actually market anything. And yeah, the cars are very good. I mean, Simon's car, he actually fitted a lot of the parts himself, which is partly down to our good instructions and partly down to his mechanical ability. So. But obviously we do a lot of other cars to similar standard that we actually, you know, fit the parts as well. So whatever takes your fancy.
Well, I asked all the other lads, so I feel I've got to ask you two as well. We're talking a lot of brake horsepower from you guys. Now, Roland, you've been talking about reliability, but how usable is it for me to throw my kids in the back and nip down the local supermarket?
Okay. Well actually, I have actually used the car for exactly that purpose over the last few years. I mean, we retain all the seats in the car. Although we put a roll cage in there, we still keep the 4 seats. We keep the choke assembly in there, so obviously there's no cold starting problems. We run the standard camshaft, so there's no low RPM problems. And as with all our conversions, we use an in-car boost control. And with that, basically, we can govern the maximum boost pressure that the car will run. So obviously, for popping down to the shops, we can select a slightly lower pressure than we might do on the drag strip. Exactly. And we can actually govern how high the in-car controller will adjust up to using one of our other products, a spider valve, as we call it. So obviously, that prevents it being accidentally over-adjusted. So yeah, as an everyday car, very, very good.
Good. What about you, Clive?
Same again. We run the car as we run it at Santa Pod on the drag strip. The car is not tuned, not fettled, not anything. When we take it there, we run it, and that's how it's driven on the road. So yeah, it makes for interesting driving down to the shops. Yeah.
Very scary drive down to the shops.
What about the general consumption and the economies of these cars? Sort of.
Well, the car we started again with the block. We completely revamped the way the car is run. We started again, put a fuel injection system on it, did away with the carburettor, which makes the car run a lot more efficiently and breathe a lot better and rev a lot better. So yeah, economy and drivability is still there with the car.
Right, I'm sorry lads, we've run out of time, so I've just got time to sort of say we've got a bloke coming. He's here to wibble and he's going to babble at you. It's Barry.
Hello, I'm Barry and I'm back. Well, did you know that when you drive too close to the car in front, it's difficult to see past, because racing drivers do it so they get a toe to overtake. But when you're on the public road and you're following a lorry, you can't see very far. You need to pull back and you can see more because it narrows your field of vision. Talking about fields of vision, my mate Eddie was in a lay-by with Sharon Bentley. He's chopped the top of his Fiesta and he was showing it off and showing other things off and all from what I can make out. Anyway, the guy in the field was muck spreading, wasn't he? He came past, they both got covered in shit. Absolutely. Talk about getting in shit with your bird.
What a fool.
Yeah, ignore him. That's it for part 1. Come back in part 2, we've got 2 cozzies for you.
Welcome back to part 2 of the Powerhouse.
First car that we've got on the second part of the show is an amalgamation of 2 different rally styles. It is, of course, an Escort Mark 1, which was dominant in the early years of racing. It's rear-wheel drive, lots and lots of fun. But inside this, we've got a Cosworth engine. Now, nobody thought of doing this. Of course, Ford, to compete with homologation laws, had to put them in certain cars, as we know, the Sapphires and the Escorts as well. Nobody thought of doing this with a Mark 1. But somebody has, thankfully. It is still rear-wheel drive. This engine, though, has been decompressed. It's running green injectors. It's also got an intercooler down the front here. It's running a hell of a lot of horsepower. This is an unbelievable car. As we move down, we're also going to notice that the wheels are bigger at the back than they are at the front. We've got big wheels on the back just for the sole purpose that that's where all the power is going to come from. In the interior, it's stripped out. It's fully ready for racing. We've got harnesses and full bucket seats in there. Now, if you make this car at the lights, nobody's going to know exactly what you've got in this. They're going to think you're a standard thing. But wolf in sheep's clothing, you're only going to know about that huge exhaust on the back. This is a brilliant car, and I really think that we should meet the owner. And here he is, Dave.
How do you do?
How are you doing?
Nice to meet you.
Dave, I've got to know, why did you decide to put a Cosworth engine in a Mark 1?
In a Mark 1? Basically to try and achieve the maximum power output we could get away with without actually causing any problems with the major structural components of the car. The Cosworth engine is more or less a Pinto engine and more or less fits straight in.
Right.
We use more or less a bit loosely, but more or less fits
So
straight
have you had to do some cutting and shutting to actually get the engine in?
A little, but it's not too far removed from the Mark 1 RS 2000.
Right. So have you had to actually do the shell in any way to keep it stronger?
The entire suspension and shell structure has been changed to a 5-link axle location on the rear. It's turreted. It's got coilover suspension, all of the necessary gussets and strengthening.
Right, Dave, thank you very much. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, so thanks for coming.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Dave.
Cheers.
Last car on today's Powerhouse is a 4x4 Sapphire Cosworth, and it goes like a rocket. But don't take it from me. Here's Keith, the owner. Keith, how you doing?
All right, mate.
Nice. Start off with the engine bay here, another gleaming, magnificent engine bay. What's going on here?
We have alley tanks for the water, oil breather system. We have a colour-coded rocker cover, ignition leads, vernier pulleys, twin piston dump valve, silicone hosing everywhere.
So you got it going on pretty much.
Yeah.
What kind of brake horsepower is this car running?
Roughly around about 350, 360 brake horsepower.
Now, if you get in the car for us, Keith, it's quite nice. To get in the car, there's some nice carbon fibre door handles here. But Keith's actually got quite a nice feature here, which are becoming quite popular these days as well. Removable steering wheel. That's just a blinding idea, isn't it?
Yes.
Really is. How long have you had that on there for?
Roughly about a year now.
They're quite expensive to buy, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. And there's a lot of carbon fibre in here as well, I noticed.
Yeah, we've got details around all the heater controls, the dash, the clock round here as well.
Right, and is that the boost control?
Yeah, the all-important boost gauge.
Let's talk about this.
The heat shield for the bumper, yes. It's there for a purpose. On overrun, it will ignite the bumper. Flames come out the back.
Can you believe that? So, flames come out the back?
Yes.
What a magnificent car. I'd really love to see this car in action. Will you bring it down sometime?
Certainly will do.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Keith. Cheers.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, Keith. 2 fantastic Cozzies there. It's now time for our 2-wheel deficient man. It's Lobo Castro.
Remember last week when we spoke to Nick Coulton about Streetfighters, how to modify the front end on your standard looking bike? Well, today we're going to have a look at the chassis modifications and the engine modifications. Let's go and see what he has to say. Hi Nick, and thank you for being with us again. Remember last week we had a look at the front end of this lovely Bimotor SB6. Could you run us through the middle part?
The middle part? Yeah, I guess so. Middle part containing what you would probably think the most important part, the motor. The motor on the SB6 is standard as a GSXR 1100W, the water-cooled engine, and that's remained much the same as in the standard motorcycle. We've dynajetted it, put air filters on. The motors are slightly modified by Bimotor after receiving them from Suzuki. The outlet manifolds are made slightly wider to accept larger diameter downpipes. The bike produces, claim from Bimotor, 148 horsepower. A little bit optimistic, but with the modifications we've done, such as the Vance & Hines CDI ignition box and the carburation modifications, it's probably running close to that now.
Chassis. What did you change in the chassis? Because we know that Bimotor don't use their own engines, they just build...
They always buy in proprietary engines, yeah, Ducati, Suzuki, Honda, Kawasaki.
So did you have to make any changes to the chassis?
No, I mean the major change of this area of the motorcycle is of course the standard Bimotor has a full fairing, whereas of course we've removed that from the bike, as 95% of the Streetfighters have no significant front bodywork to speak of. We've utilised the belly pan just to tidy up this area of the bike, and it complements the cockpit fairing nicely. But the frame itself is much as it left the factory. As standard, the footrest hangers mountings here are quite weak on the SB6, so we beefed them up and fitted a set of GSXR 750 footrest hangers because they were more up to date and a little bit more pleasing to look at.
Those radiators, they have a bit of history behind them, don't they, Nick?
Most Suzuki Streetfighters would tend to use the earlier oil-cooled motor. Although the engines resemble each other, the water-cooled motor, which this is standard, regardless in the Bimotor or the Suzuki, have a very large curved radiator. It doesn't look very nice out in the open. So we actually had a local radiator company build this rad for us to look like an oil cooler and to match the factory-fitted one that's now mounted below it.
We're looking at the rider's seat. So what does he look at in the instruments? What has he got there?
He's got an LED temperature readout. The clocks are a hybrid of GSXR 750 WT and later analog non-electronic clocks, just because they look nice and because they actually fit in the cockpit well.
That is a very nice petrol tank style.
Yeah, that's. This is actually a cover that flows into the monocoque bodywork at the back. The fuel tank itself is underneath the external cover, and when you actually want to get at the motor itself, the whole bodywork lifts off, and then you take the tank off separately.
Yeah, and obviously we'll have a look at the back end in the next programme, won't we, Nick?
Yes.
Will Lobo ever get to ride one of them bikes, and who is that hooded man? I'd like to thank all our guests.
And I'd like to say that next week they said they might be letting us out of the powerhouse, so don't miss that one. But now it's data blast time, so get your fingers on them buttons.
Until next week, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.